I want you to take a look at the following written apology and not only listen to the words written, but also take a good look at the handwriting. As usual, make sure you let your intuition take the wheel and be very attentive to how does this make you feel. Dear Judge Smith, my name is Aiden Fucci. I'm 16 years old. First off, I want to say that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the pain I caused to the Bailey family. I'm sorry to the friends, brothers and sisters, mom, dad, and any other family relatives. I'm sorry that you didn't get to know her that long. You did not have any long relationships with Tristan, and for that, I'm sorry. For the community, I'm sorry I brought all this pain on everybody, and I'm sorry, and I know my apology will not fix anything or bring her back, but I hope it helps in some way. It's important that you learn to listen to the feeling of that first impression. That gut reaction that tells you so many things are off. And well, in that regard, this case is as gruesome as it gets. After 2 days of graphic and often emotional testimony, 16-year-old Aiden Fucci was sentenced to life in prison for killing his 13-year-old schoolmate in the early morning hours of Mother's Day in 2021. Fucci, who was 14 at the time of the crime, pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, admitting to brutally stabbing Tristan Bailey more than 100 times in the woods. We are going to take a closer look at this apology. By the end of this video, you will have a better understanding of the signals that you should pay attention to in written evidence, but also how the tone of any communication, whether it's written or spoken, can reveal the true intentions that people try to conceal. Welcome back, my body language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and it would be great if you join us by just liking this video, subscribing, and hitting that bell. Let's get down to it. Even if we already know this kid is a monster and what he has done, there are clues to his personality and, most important, his motivations to write such a letter. But first, I want you to focus on the signals that allow you to compare his own handwriting on a word-by-word basis. First, upon that initial reading of his written apology, you might have noticed that he never refers to Tristan directly. Of course, it's obvious that Tristan is not here anymore, but it's still a signal that there's a detachment from what he has done, and of course, the pain that he has caused to her family and friends. That might be the reason why this apology is addressed directly at them. So even if at first sight it sounds like a genuine apology, it's completely impersonal in terms of the victim. He just goes around the topic, and that's why that first impression falls flat. You cannot help but think that this was some kind of a last resort or last-minute strategy to aim for a time-served sentence instead of prison for life. That is the only explanation for the timing, since this was issued just 24 hours before the sentencing. It's always relevant to remember that in this kind of statements, such as apologies, the timing can reveal a lot about the intentions of the person. In terms of the actual handwriting, perhaps the most important distinction is between how he writes his own name and how he writes the name of the victim. If this is an apology, a heartfelt apology, you might think that he would feel guilty in any way, and upon that feeling, the writing of the victim's name should be at the very least as detailed as his own. But you can see that Tristan's name is just some garbled letters, it's barely legible. It's possible that he didn't even know exactly how her name was spelled. That's a possibility that definitely does not look very remorseful in itself, but still, even if he got her name wrong, he might at least write the letters in a way that one can understand them. In other cases, I will think that maybe he's ashamed of writing her name, that since he actually feels guilty of what he has done, he doesn't feel like he's worthy of mentioning the victim. But since we are talking about such a monstrous murder, I can only imagine that he was actually jealous of writing her name. I'm going to talk about the times he has mentioned himself in this letter later in this video and how this points to plain sick narcissism, and that would explain why he had such a hard time writing her name. It's because he just didn't want her to appear in the apology. You should also take a look at the second part. To my mom, I want to send my apology as well. I'm sorry that she had to move her house because people were sending threats to the house and my family, and that my little brother and sister had to change schools because of me. Mom, now I miss your lemon pepper chicken. I miss your hugs. I miss you. The longer I'm in here, the more I forget, the more memories I lose. I'll never forget you love me. Yeah, that absolutely sounds like he's trying to pull at the heartstrings. There's another pattern that I've mentioned many times, that is the family man. Someone mentions his family in some way so he can inspire pity on others. For example, Will Smith did exactly the same when he was apologizing to Chris Rock. In Fucci's case, he wants to stress his relationship with his mother, the inconvenience that this has been for his brother and sister and for his family, and making a connection to life at home. Even mentioned lemon pepper chicken. It's like he has to spend way more time talking to his own family and what he misses than addressing the family of the victim, let alone addressing Tristan directly. Now, you might have noticed that that the letter is full of typos and mistakes, and it can give you a very good idea of Fuchi's educational level. But the typos and mistakes is a way to confirm that this was written by himself, mistakes and all. So we can also guess that these are his words, the way that he writes, and it's not that somebody dictated it or somebody wrote it for him. Now, it's interesting that being this an apology, it has so many references to himself. Yes, I understand that he might not have any other words besides "I'm sorry," which obviously points to himself, but especially the last part when he gives so much emphasis to his relationship with his mom. It's not the amount of times he says "I," but the focus of each section. It's also worth noting that when he writes mom at the start of that second part, he uses lowercase, but when he refers to his brother and sister, he capitalized them when it's not needed at all. Also, for all the spontaneity that we can see in those mistakes and typos and think that he wrote this letter on a single sitting, it's suspicious that it's divided into parts. It's not a single scan. And that could mean that these two pieces were not written in the same circumstances or even in the same day. Notice that the general slant of many lines is different in both pieces. In the first couple paragraphs, there's barely any slant to the right, while in the second part, there are many lines with a noticeable slant to the right. And this is regardless the area of the page that he was writing on. It has more to do with emotional states. There's also the spacing of the words and letters. In the first part, when he is addressing Tristan's family, the space in between the letters and the words is much tighter. While in the second part, when he's addressing his mom, his house, his brother and sister, the spacing is much more loose. Well, it's obvious that he should feel much more comfortable addressing his own family than the family of the girl he murdered, but that reinforces the possibility that he wrote this letter just by suggestion of his attorneys, and perhaps the second part was much more important to this effect than the actual apology to Tristan's family. Did you see any other details in this written apology? Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. And make sure you download my 100 body language tips right in the description of this video. Much love and bless.